mubiqat, destructive, because they destroy a person. They destroy a person in this life and the next. They destroy a person in this life, as he says, أَمَّا فِي الدُّنْيَا فَبِالْعُقُوبَاتِ وَالْعَوَاقِبِ الْوَخِيمَ الَّتِي يَجْنِيهَا مُرْتَكِبُ الْكَبَائِرِ. Some of these sins, for example, killing, murder. A person murders a person, and they destroy themselves. Either, if we don't see it, we might think it's destruction because the person might go to jail for life. But if we're in a Muslim country that upholds the Sharia, that rule by the Sharia, then a person goes, if they're found guilty, then they're killed. They're killed. You kill someone unjustly, then a person, after going to court, it's not like a vigilante type thing where, we just run off and lumps down. It's not like that. And it's not like that there. It's a court process. A person has to be found guilty. You're talking about killing somebody for a death. Somebody was killed, yes. All right, to kill another person now is a serious process. It's a serious process. And if a person is found guilty, then they're put to death. So it's some serious in this life. And then that's in this life. Then Yawm al-Qiyamah, that same person has to stand before Allah with that on their scales, that they killed a person without right. Without right. Because there's sometimes where there's a right to kill a person. Right? For example, if a person kills somebody, let's just say they go to court, right? They go to court, they're found guilty. Even here, the electric chair, right? Or injection, whatever they use. But the person who kills, he kills somebody. So they're on the stand, right? They found guilty. Now somebody else is going to come and kill them. There's another killing, right? Another form of killing. The second one is due right to be killed. He has due right to kill the person. That means they have the right as they've gone through the process, and somebody has to hit the button on the electric chair, right? Somebody has to start it. Somebody has to, whatever they do for the lethal injection, somebody has to do it. Whoever does it at that point is considered having the right to do that. Clear? Huh? Somebody murders somebody on the street. They go to court. They're found guilty. What's the sentence? They sentenced to death. But who's going to come kill him? He killed somebody, you locking him up or send him to jail for 20 years, then you're going to do the same thing he did to somebody else? Kill him? That second killing is considered killing with right. There's a right at that point, as it is the sentence. This killing here is killing without due right, like we see now. Like we're experiencing now in the streets. Tayyib. He says, so the Prophet ﷺ, as a way of teaching, in this hadith, it shows the importance of something. Why? Because he started off the hadith and he mentioned a number, 7. He mentioned the number 7. So what does this do? This allows a person that's listening to pay attention even more. Now they're really paying attention because they want to count him out if he's mentioning them, to see if, make sure he understands and count them right? So a person pays more attention. So for example, if it's only 6, they might say, I only heard 6. Well, what's the 7th one? So a person pays attention when they hear that number, and this is a form. He says, this helps a person, and this is a form of teaching that the Prophet ﷺ used to use. This helps a person retain the information. It's a form of helping the person listen, helping the listener retain the information. As when he says, as-sab'a. He says 7, the person that's listening is listening for 7 things. Therefore, if they only heard 5, then they know they missed 2. If they heard 6, they missed 1. If they heard 7, they know they got all of them. But it's a form of causing the person to pay attention, raising the eyebrows, or raising the awareness level to pay attention. And this 7 I mentioned in this hadith, they're not restricted to 7. It's not a restriction. They're not restricted to only 7. These 7 are mentioned in the hadith. These 7 are mentioned in the hadith, this specific hadith. As it comes in another hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, Ala أُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِأَكْبَرِ الْكَبَائِرِ. He said, should I not tell you of the greatest of the major sins? Should I not tell you what are the greatest of the major sins? قالوا, the Sahaba, radiallahu anhum, they said, Bala ya Rasulullah, of course ya Rasulullah, of course, tell us what are the major sins. What are not the major sins? Akbar. What are at the top of the list of the major sins? He said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the first thing, al-ishraku billah, to make shirk with Allah. Again, so that comes in another hadith. He mentions shirk first. The first thing the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned was ashirku billah. He said, secondly, in this hadith is recorded in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. He says, secondly, وَعُقُوقُ الْوَالِدَيْنِ, from the top, at the top of the list of the major sins is disrespecting the parents. Disrespecting the parents. This hadith is in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. Disrespecting the parents, not being good to the parents. And that one was not in the first hadith. 7. The first hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said there's 7 destructive sins. He didn't mention the disrespecting of the parents in that hadith, which shows that the major sins are not restricted to that hadith. That there are other hadith that show that there are other sins that are considered major sins. And next he's going to mention what is the difference, or what are the effects, what happens, how do we know what is a major sin and what's not a major sin. And then the third thing the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, he said, after the shirk, putting partners with Allah, and after the disrespecting of the parents, he said, وَالشَّهَادَةُ زُورٍ, giving false witness to something, falsely testifying that something is true and it's not true, or falsely testifying that something is false and it's not false. And this covers a lot of chapters. And from them is when a brother, in the chapter of marriage, a brother comes and he needs, for example, a character witness, right? Brother's going to marry his daughter off, or, going to marry his daughter off. So he comes and he asks a brother, can you bear witness that this brother's a good brother? He's good. I'm thinking about he wants to marry my daughter. At this point, a person has to tell the truth. You can't lie. You can't give a false witness. You know the brother's not right. Right? But y'all come up together. So you give a false testimony and say, yeah, he's a good brother. He's cool. Right? He comes and asks, can you bear witness? Can you stand and bear witness for this character, for his character? Does he do this? Is he that? So a person has to answer at that point. At that point, it's not considered backbiting. At that point, it's not considered backbiting. A person has to tell what they know from the truth. If they don't, then what happens? Maybe the brother doesn't pray or the sister doesn't pray. Maybe the brother's known for beating women. He hits women. Tayyib. You know the brother beats women, as it comes in another hadith, that they came and asked about a man, and they described him as a man who they didn't say he beat women. They say, but keeps his stick. He keeps his stick on his shoulder, which meant that he hits. Tayyib. If you don't tell a person something like that, for example, then what happens? And the brother marries his daughter to this brother, and she ends up beating the sister. Tayyib, what's the first thing her father does? Her father comes back to you. Tayyib, I thought you said he was a good brother. Either one of two things. Are you going to tell the truth? Or are you going to lie? I ain't know he was into that. That's if you know something. You tell what you know in order to protect the people. And it could be, there's a lot of chapters that false witness that the Prophet ﷺ said is from the major. He said in this hadith that is from the top of the list of the major sins, shahadatu zur. Falsely testifying that something is true and it's not true. Or that something is false and it's not false. That false testimony, as the Prophet ﷺ said, is from akbar al-kaba'ir, from the greatest of the major sins. And he also said, وَعُقُوقُ الْوَالِدَيْنِ, disrespecting the parents. It's from the top of the list of the major sins. So there are more than 7. The first hadith he mentioned 7, but there come the other hadith where there are more than 7. as Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, the ulama differ on the specific number. Scholars differ on the exact number. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, he said, Hiya ila sab'ina aqrab. They're around 70. They're around 70. And the ulama differ on the specific number. طيب, next he says, Yambagi is, how do we know something is a major sin or not? Besides the text. In this text, the Prophet ﷺ said, Min akbar al-kaba'ir, from the greatest of the major sins. It says major sins. But if it doesn't say that something is a major sin, then how does a person know? Does anybody know? How does a person know something is a major sin? If it doesn't say it specifically, like this hadith. This hadith says, akbar al-kaba'ir, from the greatest of the major sins. But if the Prophet ﷺ doesn't say something is a major sin, there's signs in the wording of the hadith, the wording of the statements of the Prophet ﷺ. There's signs to show that this action here is from the major sins. He mentions a number of them. Firstly, when we say from the major sins, meaning the minor sins, and we'll see the difference now. The minor sins don't carry the same weight as the major sins. He says, وَهُوَ كُلُّ عَمَلْ صُدِّرَ بِلَعْنٍ. Every action that comes in the hadith, where the Prophet ﷺ says, the person who does this is cursed. May the curse of Allah be on the person who does this action. The curse of Allah be on the person who does this action, that we know whatever action comes in that is a major sin. طيب. For example, just tattoos. Allah musta'an. If a person didn't know and they were ignorant, inshallah, Allah forgive them. If a person intentionally knows and gets a tattoo, knowing tattoos forbidden, knowing that they're from the major sins. The Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith is in Sahih Bukhari. The hadith is in Sahih Bukhari about the curse of Allah being upon a person. Not who just gets it, and the one who does the tattooing. And there are many things. There are a lot of things that we see now. In our time, that the Prophet ﷺ said, these people are cursed. There are a lot of them. Another one, hair extensions. The Prophet ﷺ said that the woman who puts hair extensions, not just the one who gets it, he said, and the one who puts it in their hair. That's the first one, that the Prophet ﷺ, he connects a curse to that action. He says, oh hirman min dukhul al-jannah. Or in the hadith, it says that this person, the person who does this, the Prophet ﷺ said, a person who does this will not enter paradise. If a person who does this action will not enter paradise, then that action is considered to be from the major sins. Even though the hadith might not say, this is a major sin. We know it's a major sin, that the threat of not entering paradise. It says, number 3, وَعِيدٍ بِدُخُولِ النَّارِ, or a threat of entering the hellfire. If this person does this, they're going to the hellfire. But a person who does this action is going to the hellfire, then that action is considered a major sin. And if you look through the hadith, there are a lot of famous hadith. There are a lot of famous hadith that use these words. Or بِذِكْرِ سَخْطِ الرَّبِّ وَعِقَابِهِ. If it's mentioned that this action angers Allah, this specific action angers Allah Jalla wa Ala, then we know that this is from the major sins. أو بِلَعْنِ فَاعِلِهِ. As he says, the curse, again, the curse is on a person who does this or who does that. And there are many ahadith that meant that Allah musta'an, they apply now. A lot of stuff that's going on now. Right now, like tattoos, the thing. It's like ink. The Prophet ﷺ said that the one who gets it is cursed, and the one who does the tattooing is cursed. So we ask Allah to forgive us. If we didn't know, we got to seek Tawbah, make Tawbah, ask Allah to forgive us. He says, and our women, he said the same thing. He said the same thing about hair extensions. That they are cursed. the one who puts them in the hair, who does it, and the one who gets it done. It was a hadith in Sahih Bukhari. That a person has to repent, major sins. Not that a person is going to hellfire, and not that a person is going to the hellfire for committing a major sin, but the threat alone that a person has to seek Allah's forgiveness for all sins. But what's the difference? A person may the small sins fall off. Those small sins fall off with different acts of worship. From Jumu'ah to Jumu'ah, the 5 prayers, as the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith, from Ramadan to Ramadan. But these major sins, a person has to ask Allah, seek His forgiveness. Because the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith, as long as they stay away from the major sins. Tayyib. He said, another way we know something is a major sin. He says, Nafi al-Iman anhu. That a person is not a believer who does this. The person who does this is not a believer, the Prophet ﷺ said. La yu'minu. The person who does this is not a believer. Or he says, Laysa minna. This person who does this is not from us. He's not from us. And that came in a hadith in the last chapter, where he said, he is not from us. Laysa minna. Whoever, he said, he is not from us. Whoever does not respect the elders and doesn't have mercy with the youth. Laysa minna. Whoever doesn't respect the elders is not from us. And whoever doesn't have mercy with the youth is not from us. He says this is from the ways that we know that something is a major sin. He says, Laysa minna. So all these are what? Signs. They're signs that a person, or signs that an action is considered to be from the major sins. إِضَافَةً إِلَى التَّنْصِيصِ عَلَى الْعَمَلِ إِنَّهُ مِنَ الْكَبَائِرِ. And that's in addition. Those wordings are in addition to they're in addition to if the hadith itself says something is a major sin, like the previous hadith. Sometimes it says, min akbar al-kaba'ir, from the major sins are this. But not every hadith says that. Sometimes it says, la'an Allah, the curse of Allah be on this person who does this. And sometimes it says even the issue of the curse and the hadith of the man who imitates the woman, and the woman who imitates the man, about the curse of Allah being upon him. Salam al-afiyah. And we see that again today. We see that's an issue. Allah musta'an. The men dressing like women, and the women dressing like men. And these warnings come in the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ. Revelation, this is revelation. This is revelation from the Prophet ﷺ. This is the guidance. So that Shaykh Abdul Razak says that a person, he may not memorize all 70 of the major sins, but a person reads through just to familiarize themselves with what the major sins are. I think I read that in the book of Major Sins. At least to have some awareness of what they are. And they're heavy. As some of them hold, if a person were to do some of these things, some of the major sins, they're not all. Not all of the major sins remove a person from al-Islam, but some of the major sins, a person is not considered Muslim anymore. Like shirk, kufr. That's the first one that he mentions, the Prophet ﷺ. The first thing he mentioned from the 7 destructive sins, the 7 destructive sins, the first thing the Prophet ﷺ mentioned was shirk billah, which will remove a person from al-Islam. So he says, وَأَخْطَرُ الْكَبَائِرِ, the most dangerous and the most severe is to put partners with Allah. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ, when he said in the hadith, as-sab'u mubiqat, he said the 7 destructive sins, he started with, firstly, they said, what are they, O Messenger of Allah? He said, ashirk billah, because this is the most dangerous, as this removes a person from the religion of al-Islam. فَإِنَّهُ فِي بَابِ الْأَوَامِرِ يُقَدِّمْ أَعْظَمُهَا. So when we're talking about the commandments, Allah commands, the commandments of Allah, the greatest command that Allah has given us is a tawheed, to single Allah out in worship. It's the greatest command. The greatest prohibition that Allah has prohibited us from, an-nawahi, in the chapter of prohibitions, is a shirk. And this is why here And these things which are prohibitions, the Prophet ﷺ, he started with a shirk, the first thing. As Allah says in the ayah, قال تعالى وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَدْعُونَ مَعَ اللَّهِ إِلَهًا آخَرَ وَلَا يَقْتُلُونَ النَّفْسَ الَّتِي حَرَّمَهُ اللَّهُ إِلَّا بِالْحَقِّ وَلَا يَزْنُونَ. This is in Surah Al-Furqan, ayah 68. Allah mentioned three things from three major sins. He mentioned three major sins in this ayah. But he started with a shirk. The first thing Allah mentioned in the ayah was a shirk. Those who don't call on anyone other than Allah. That's the first thing he mentioned. He started off out of the three things a shirk. Then he said those who do not kill. They do not kill someone else except with right, that they have right. And there's specific times. There are times when a person is able to kill with right. And it's not what we see. It's not what we're experiencing here. It's not what we're experiencing here. So Allah mentioned firstly a shirk in the ayah. Then secondly he mentioned murder. Murder without due right. And then thirdly he said وَلَا يَزْنُونَ. And that they don't commit zina. They don't commit fornication. All of these three came in the same ayah. And they're all from the major sins. But Allah put first a shirk, which shows that it is heavier, or it is the greatest of the major sins. And also it shows that a shirk huwa a'zamu mubiqat, because what? Huwa dhanb alladhi la yughfar. It is the sin that is not forgiven. A shirk is the sin that is not forgiven. وَهُوَ أَظْلَمُ الظُّلْمِ. And it is the worst type of oppression, that a person oppresses himself by worshiping other than Allah. And we might not think, we might look and say, well, we don't worship Isa alayhi salam, or we don't worship statues, we don't worship stones. So we think we're cool. But some of the ulama have considered a riyah, showing off. Some ulama have considered a riyah, showing off, to fall under the ayah, where Allah doesn't forgive. Where Allah says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَغْفِرُ أَن يُشْرَكَ بِهِ وَيَغْفِرُ مَا دُونَ ذَلِكَ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ. Where Allah says that indeed Allah does not forgive that a person makes shirk with him, but He forgives everything other than that. Some of the ulama consider showing off to fall under that ayah. Some. Allah musta'an, because we come from a culture of showing off. Right? That's where we come from. Allah forgive us. So, in another ayah, showing the severity, Luqman, alayhi salam, Luqman advised his own son, Ya bunayya, la tushrik billah. Oh my son, don't put partners with Allah. If the prophets and messengers warn their children about falling in shirk, there's no reason that we should think we are better, or we're not in need of teaching ourselves firstly and our children. Then he said, Inna shirka la dhulmun azim. Indeed, that shirk is a serious form of oppression. So shirk is a type of oppression. Shirk, putting partners with Allah, is one type of oppression. And this is that a person oppresses their own self, because dhulm, oppression, is to put something basically in the wrong spot. You take something and you put it where it doesn't belong. Tayyib? You take something and you put it where it doesn't belong. So a person, when they commit shirk, when they put partners with Allah, they take their worship that should be directed to Allah only, and they worship other than Allah. So they put their worship in a place where it doesn't belong. Therefore, it falls under the meaning of dhulm, oppression. He says, with shirk, هو تسوية غير الله بالله في شيء من حقوقه. Shirk is to put someone equal, to make someone or something equal with Allah in those things that are specific to Allah. Worship, ta'zeem, honor. Because sometimes people they have things called reverence, right? reverence for the elders sometimes in some cultures. They have reverence, this type of reverence, where they raise the elders to a level where it becomes worship. So those things that are specific are for Allah alone, that a person makes someone or something equal, to raise them to the level. They raise them to the level, and that level is only khas. It is specifically for Allah. As Allah says, قُلْ إِنَّ الصَّلَاةِ وَالنُّسُكِ وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ لَا شَرِيكَ لَهُ. Allah says that say, indeed my salat, my slaughtering, my living and my dying is for Allah Jalla wa Ala. The Lord of the worlds, He has no partner. طيب. We'll stop there, inshallah, for the adhan. And that was the first major sin. That was the first one that he mentions from the 7. And like he said, he's not going to mention all, but he'll go through the 7. And we'll start next week, inshallah, with the second one, which is as-sihr, magic. Magic. And there are different forms of magic. Inshallah, we'll start there, stop there. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala nabiyyina Muhammad.